In this podcast episode, Alex Phillips delves into the pressing issue of women's safety in urban centers, particularly in the context of mass immigration. The conversation highlights the complexities surrounding cultural differences, societal norms, and the implications of these factors on women's experiences in public spaces. Phillips begins by addressing the growing concern among women regarding their safety in city centers. She notes that many women feel increasingly vulnerable, especially in light of recent events that have heightened fears of street harassment and violence. The discussion emphasizes that men often do not perceive these threats in the same way, particularly when they are accompanied by women, which serves as a protective factor against harassment. This disparity in perception raises questions about the broader societal understanding of women's experiences and the need for a more nuanced conversation about safety. A significant portion of the conversation revolves around the correlation between immigration from certain regions and the uptick in sexual harassment and assault. Phillips argues that cultural norms regarding gender and women's rights differ markedly across various societies. She points out that men from cultures with orthodox views on gender roles may have fundamentally different attitudes towards women, which can lead to conflicts in a Western context where women's rights are more progressive. This cultural clash is further complicated by the influx of men from regions where women's visibility and autonomy are limited. Phillips also discusses the impact of the pornification of society, suggesting that exposure to hypersexualized content can distort perceptions of women and contribute to problematic behaviors. She highlights the need to address these cultural differences openly, rather than shying away from uncomfortable discussions due to fears of being labeled as racist or xenophobic. The conversation takes a turn as Phillips questions the current state of feminism and its response to these pressing issues. She expresses disappointment in the feminist movement's focus on less critical matters, such as workplace sexism, while neglecting the more urgent concerns surrounding women's safety in public spaces. Phillips argues that the feminist movement should be at the forefront of addressing these issues, yet it often appears hesitant to engage in discussions that might challenge prevailing narratives about race and immigration. This reluctance, she suggests, stems from a fear of backlash and a desire to maintain political correctness. Phillips posits that this hierarchy of victimhood, where race and cultural identity take precedence over women's safety, has led to a lack of meaningful dialogue about the real threats women face. Throughout the discussion, Phillips shares personal anecdotes that illustrate the everyday challenges women encounter. She recounts experiences of being followed, harassed, and intimidated, emphasizing that these incidents are not isolated, but rather part of a broader pattern. The normalization of such behaviors, she argues, reflects a societal failure to address the root causes of these issues. The conversation shifts to the influence of media and popular culture on societal perceptions of beauty and gender. Phillips critiques the rise of figures like the Kardashians, who she believes perpetuate unrealistic standards of beauty and contribute to the objectification of women. She argues that this hypersexualization has detrimental effects on women's mental health and self-esteem, further complicating the conversation around women's rights and safety. Phillips also discusses the role of social media in shaping these narratives, suggesting that platforms often prioritize sensationalism over meaningful discourse. This environment stifles honest conversations about the challenges women face, as individuals fear the repercussions of speaking out. A central theme of the discussion is the urgent need for open and honest dialogue about women's safety, immigration, and cultural differences. Phillips argues that avoiding these conversations only perpetuates the problems at hand. She calls for a collective effort to confront uncomfortable truths and engage in discussions that may challenge societal norms. Phillips emphasizes that courage is essential in this endeavor, urging individuals to speak out against injustices and advocate for women's rights. She believes that by fostering an environment where difficult conversations can take place, society can begin to address the root causes of violence and harassment against women.